There's a scene on the Larry Sanders Show where Hank asks Artie to highlight all of his shortcomings as a performer. Artie sits down, puts his hands out with a big smile on his face, says, "Where the hell should I start?" That's kind of the conversation we're going to have, and even if you haven't seen the show, you understand where I'm going when it comes to the A54 5G versus the A53 5G, because there's not any instance where I would see you picking up an A53 over an A54. And unlike a lot of times now with smartphones, where year-over-year upgrades are not things I typically recommend, because there wouldn't be enough to motivate spending more money for the second year in a row just to get the newest version. That's not one of those cases. It's not like the iPhone 13 to 14. It's not like the S22 Ultra to the S23 Ultra, where if you had the other one, you had the previous version, hold on to it, save the money. No. Don't do that here. Samsung is offering you $250 if you trade in your A53 5G. Absolutely do that. Do not question your decision, and then go about your day enjoying the A54 5G. We're going to go over a lot of things in this video about why I prefer the A54. But the biggest one, as we highlighted yesterday, is the lag or lack thereof. The A54, while is not a speed demon, and no one's going to confuse it as a flagship level performer, it's consistent. There isn't that lag. There isn't the slowdown. The show doesn't come to a halt with the A54 5G where it does with the A53 5G. A lot of times when I was using my A53, it could be perfectly fine. It'd be bombing along. We'd be scrolling, enjoying the 120 hertz, gaming, and then all of a sudden we'd be going 100 miles an hour, and it would just slam, stop on the brakes, hard on the brakes. You get whiplash. You're like, what the heck just happened? I don't have that on the A54. My brain can dial in what this performance is going to get, what the A54 is going to give me performance-wise every single time. So while there's still slowdowns, there's still things that it doesn't do particularly well performance-wise, it's consistent. Every single time I'm able to enjoy. And what that does is it doesn't pull me out of the experience at all. I don't find myself wanting to throw this phone out a window like I did with the A53 repeatedly. That's the biggest thing. If you're somebody who was frustrated all year with the performance of your A53, then the A54 is a phone that takes care of a lot of that issue. What I think they did is, this is running the A54 is running the Exynos 1380. They put in two of the more high-performance cores, the way I understand it, the A78 core, whatever it is. They beefed up the processor to make it better and lag a little bit less, and it does that. You don't find those stutters and just laggy UI experiences on the A54 that you had on the A53. Not the only improvement. Big one's the build quality. Gorilla Glass on the back. Now, a lot of people prefer plastic. That's fine. You want to say, hey, listen, I don't want to put a case on it. I want that extra durability. I don't mind the fact that it's not a glass back. That's fine. A lot of people prefer the glass back. I happen to like this. I like the feel. I like the look. I like the way that they've brought the design language in line with the rest of the Galaxy devices. I like no camera hump here. Looks nice and clean. I happen to like this color. This one was available in colors internationally as well. But I didn't mind this build at all. But this one's better. The big thing that they did change, at least in my mind, is a lot of people had problems, and I could tell why. A lot of people had problems with the buttons on their A53. They were mushy. A lot of times they stopped working for a lot of people. In fact, I think some people said they even came out on Reddit. Not a good button press. It was a mushy button. They've corrected that on the A54. Nice, solid press. Doesn't feel like it's coming out anytime soon. Positive click. I really like that. So that's a small change, but it adds up to something nice. Displays. Display on the A54 is brighter, 1000 nits to 800 nits. Now, what does that mean? Well, I had a lot easier time viewing this display in direct sunlight than I did this one. This is not a bad display. The A53 did not have a bad display by any means. Nice, punchy Samsung panel, 120 hertz, got plenty bright. But the A54's is better. They dial up the saturation on the A54 just a little bit, just enough that you'd notice it. Nice, punchy colors. Absolutely love that. But the brightness is what you're going to notice. The colors absolutely jump off the screen when we're talking the A54. A lot of the same specs. 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, expandable storage on each. They did change the placement if that matters to you. The expandable storage is located on the bottom with the SIM tray on the A53, and they put it on the top on the A54. That's a small thing. Didn't seem to bother me whatsoever. Battery life, maybe it's the improvements or efficiencies that they've put into that new Exynos that they have in the A54. I'm experiencing between 6 and 6.5 hours of screen on time over here, and that's with the brightness pretty high up. Over here with my A53, I was getting about 5.5 hours of screen on time, so there is a little bit of a difference there. What that matters to you in everyday usage, it gets really tough because my usage is different from your usage. It's very tough to correlate usages and make that into a number, just kind of a final number that everybody could compare to. But that's my case. I have seen better battery life on the A54 than I did on the A53. Camera's a little bit different. The biggest difference I could tell between the two is a function of that lag that we talked about. The camera app behaves significantly better on the A54 than the A53. You remember, there would be times where if you wanted to load up a photo quickly on your A53, you'd unlock the phone, you'd put up the camera app, you'd whatever, and it would just stall out. It would just stall out. There were also times, now this is not unique to the A53 and the Samsung Galaxy, but there'd be times, get it, Galaxy? There'd be times where you'd go ahead, hit the shutter, and have that massive shutter lag. It was particularly bad on the A53. I'd have 2 seconds sometimes of shutter lag, a full 2 seconds. Count them out. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi type of shutter lag on the A53. And that would cause blurry photos. It would cause me to wonder if I'd even taken a photo in the first place. All kinds of issues. Then once you were done with your photo, once you finally took it, you'd try to get out of the camera app, and it would just be a mess as well and kind of crash out to the homepage. Not an issue here. Really smooth experience. Overall good. They've improved the performance of the camera app. I think that's a function of the new Exynos as well. The camera systems, 64 megapixel here, 50 megapixels here for the main shooter. Don't let that confuse you. This is a much better sensor. The A53 wants to put you in night mode a lot quicker. It wants to put you in night mode in kind of medium lighting settings because it just isn't able to pull in enough detail in order to give you the image in the regular mode. This one, the 50 megapixel sensor, does a lot better job at that, keeping you in the regular mode, not throwing you into night mode, and getting a crisp, good image with good lighting in kind of medium dusk lighting, whereas the A53 would have wanted that extra second or two in the night mode. So that does make a difference, especially since we're not talking dark or really dim environments. We're talking medium lighting, indoor lighting. You're going to get better performance out of the A54. A little bit punchier colors on here, but that's going to be personal preference. But they did dial up the saturation on the color science a little bit on the A54. Software-wise, you're getting the extra year of support over here, obviously because it's just a year older. So that's not something I'd sweat. It's something you know about. But a lot of people are saying, hey, there's a deal on this. We're getting a carrier deal. It's $200, $250. I'd pass. Even with the carrier deals, I would pass. They had a full year to try to correct this in software. They weren't able to because I don't think it's a software problem. I think it's a hardware problem. I think it's that Exynos. The 1280 just wasn't it. So they've gotten rid of that, and they've got the 1380 in this guy here, the A54 5G, and it is a much better experience. You will, if you own an A53 and you've been frustrated, but you love Samsung, you want One UI 5.1, you love that design, you want a premium build on a device that's under $500, you want that punchy display, you want 120 hertz, some of the things that expandable storage, some of the things that Pixel really doesn't provide in this price range, or any price range for that matter, you are going to be okay picking up an A54, whereas last year you were very much not okay picking up an A53. Links for both, links for this one, forget about it. There's not going to be a link for this. Link for this one will be in the description. It does help the channel. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have a Steve-licious day.